outside guard, and then you're just going to replace that tight end behind that second level of defense. This is great by Tua. Sees that second level, but watch, no hitch. Foot in the ground, ball gets over those linebackers, and it's great distribution. Then down in the red zone, the ball is just coming out so quickly. You have the bunch up top, and they're going to box to the bunch as those defenders. Well, how do you want to attack it? You're going to take the outside receiver and take away the inside defender. Flat route, and then Jakeem Grant's got to go separate and widen that box. But look at the ball come out on time. Grant's putting his left foot in the ground. The ball's high and on time in the red zone. This team has become so good in the red zone because, you know, Tua's greatest attribute is his brain, how quickly he's thinking and seeing things. So I love the fact that the tight end's on the field, the play action pass, protecting Tua, but still operating quickly. And then he's like Orlando Bloom from Lord of the Rings, man, in the red zone. Like, it's coming out so quickly with deadly accuracy.
Oh, man. Yeah, Mina, that's what all of our faces are saying after that. Really quick, Mina, go ahead.
Too cool for Game of Thrones, but not Lord of the Rings. Sorry,
yeah,
keep going.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Dan, if you missed it, Dan doesn't know. He's never watched Game of Thrones. Anyway, it's really fun to talk about Tua, but the Dolphins defense has really been the story over these last couple of weeks. Since Miami's 5-game winning streak began in week 5, it's held opposing quarterbacks to an NFL low 36 QBR, as well as the NFL's best scoring defense over that span. The Dolphins have been stout in the secondary, but their pressure in the front seven has been off the charts. Since week 5, their 86 quarterback pressures trail only the Cardinals. So, Marcus, should this defense scare teams at this point?
Yeah, they should, and they're built the right way. Listen, we talked about the offseason moves that the Miami Dolphins had made and bringing Van Noy over and obviously signing Byron Jones to a long extension a couple years ago, signing Xavier Howard. You see Oddball, who came over from Kansas City. Like, this team is stacked with players that can absolutely get after it. And then you see Christian Wilkins starting to become the player that they thought he could be when they drafted him. Sealer is another guy, a defensive lineman that is not getting a lot of recognition, but making a lot of plays for this defense. Flores has done a tremendous job. He's brought guys in that in an image in how he's learned how to call defenses, and he's able to execute those defenses because of the names. Xavier Howard, Byron Jones are guys that can lock up. So in turn, you can run zero pressure and lead them guys alone on the island. Eric Rowe has stepped up, and give a shout out to their GM Greer, who decided to get all of these players in and make it happen.
You know, what I dislike about talking about the Dolphins is I end up using cliches I normally hate, like complimentary football, winning in all 3 phases, like those football terms that don't, like they're cliches. But then you watch this team, and they're all true. Dan talked about the offense. Marcus talked about the defense and how well this team is built. How about special teams, right? How about the fact that they came into yesterday's game ranked 2nd in special teams, according to Football Outsiders, and then Andrew Van Ginkel, I hope I say his name right, because that's my favorite name in the NFL. I think it's Van Winkle. Anyways, he blocks the punt, and he says afterwards that they were coached to do that. This is just a well-coached team. It's no coincidence that in the first quarter of games, they have the best point differential in the NFL. They never come out flat. They always come in week to week with a different plan, which is very Patriots-like, and they execute. That's why this is such a terrifying team.
Hey,
I was trying to Google really fast. It is Van Ginkel, right?
Van Ginkel, yeah,
there we go.
Wisconsin.
It's Van Ginkel.
There we
Shout
go.
out to you, Andrew Van Ginkel.
Don't you think, don't you guys think that this is the first real kind of Belichick disciple that it actually looks like New England on tape? Like, we can say that, right? And that's not to discredit Miami. That's actually to, like, applaud them and speak glowingly of them. This is the first one that when I watch it on tape, I'm going, man, that looks a lot like New England week to week to week. They got the best week-to-week pulse in the NFL. Miami does.
Yeah, and one other reminder, guys, just on the Tua front. It is today the 1-year anniversary of his injury at Alabama that had some wondering if he would ever play again. He even wondered if he would walk again. So congrats to Tua on the progress. Let's get Adam Schefter back in here. And Adam, we're getting closer to kickoff between the Vikings and the Bears at Soldier Field right here on ESPN. What should we know about key injuries tonight, beginning with Allen Robinson?
Laura, he's been nursing a knee injury that had him limited in practice all week long. He's listed as questionable, but the sense and belief is that Allen Robinson should be able to go tonight against a depleted Vikings secondary. Now, again, Robinson's been highly productive, and he could have some pretty good numbers against the secondary. that has struggled this season, but he looks like he will be able to go. As for the Chicago Bears running back, David Montgomery, he already has been ruled out of tonight's game due to a concussion. Basically suffered a concussion late in last Sunday's loss to the Titans. The Bears are going to use a combination of Cordarrelle Patterson and Ryan Nall and Lamar Miller to try to help replace David Montgomery, who had been a workhorse for that team.
All right, and some huge names dealing with injuries around the league outside of just the game tonight. Let's start in Carolina. What do we know about Teddy Bridgewater?
Well, the good news, according to Chris Mortensen, is that there was nothing structurally wrong with Teddy Bridgewater's knee right now. There is soreness, there is swelling right now, and they don't know whether he'll be able to play against Detroit. Matt Rule, the Panthers coach, said he's quote-unquote hopeful that Bridgewater can practice on Wednesday, but I think his status for this week is very much uncertain. Not as much as true for Panthers. Well, Andrew Whitworth suffered a knee injury again on Sunday. Christian McCaffrey here essentially has that shoulder injury that he's been dealing with, and it is unlikely that he's going to be able to play. I think the team still considers him week to week, but I think it's preparing for a multi-week absence due to that shoulder injury that he suffered against Kansas City. And as for Drew Brees, as Ed Werder reported earlier today, he is dealing with broken ribs on both sides, a collapsed lung. Dan Graziano says the most optimistic timetable is to return in 2 to 3 weeks. Sean Payton said today does not want to name a new starter, but he did turn to Jameis Winston yesterday. The sense and belief is that he go to Winston again because they don't want to lose Taysom Hill as an offensive weapon and effective special teams performer.
All right, more on this and so much more with Adam Schefter and the gang on Monday Night Countdown. That at 6 Eastern right here on ESPN, so keep it locked right here for the rest of the night. And then now let's bring in our ESPN injury analyst, Stefania Bell, for more on Drew Brees. What is the nature of this injury to Drew Brees? What more can you tell us just about that, Stefania?
It's really something. I mean, he's dealing with broken ribs on both sides of his chest wall. Broken ribs on the left side, which apparently they believe happened in the Tampa Bay game 2 weeks ago. Broken ribs on the right side that happened in the game against the 49ers yesterday. And in conjunction with that, a pneumothorax, or collapsed lung, as you heard Adam say. Essentially, when you have a rib fracture, you can get a sharp edge. And if that edge creates a puncture in the lung area, then you get an abnormal collection of air between the lung and the chest wall, puts pressure on it. That's why they call it a collapsed lung. The good news is it should heal by itself. It's not something that will require any additional treatment per se.
Oh, man, as you're saying it, though, it makes me cringe. I just feel for Drew Brees. I hope he gets better soon. Stefania, speaking of that, what do you think the realistic timetable of recovery could be?
Well, as you heard, this 2 to 3 weeks at the soonest, you've got a few things layered into the recovery here. First and foremost is the lung tissue and allowing it to heal. And usually within a couple of weeks, that will happen for a small pneumothorax, which this appears to be. But then you're dealing with the fractures themselves, and it takes about 6 weeks for the bone to heal. Now, we see guys come back from rib fractures sooner than that, but there's key elements that go into that decision making. The fracture has to be stable. You don't want any sharp edges that can move and create a lung puncture like you had when the original injury happened. So they're going to want to see evidence of healing of the rib, and that